get started with our Education and Culture Committee meeting. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Howard to walk us through the packet, but we're very happy to have with us today what's really important, a discussion about special education services. Oftentimes when we talk about all meaning all, and I just had breakfast with our superintendent this morning in a conversation about what we like to see happening in our school system, it's ensuring that all of our kids are able to be successful. And it's just one where it comes really full circle when just today at a lunch meeting where I was meeting with one of our planning board members, the woman who greeted me at Gordon Bierce was a young lady who I know from Jubilee. And she was like, "Hey, Craig, how's it going?" As I walked in there. And it really says something about what it is that we expect to have happen. And that's for everyone, regardless of their level of challenges that they may face, to be able to still be self-sufficient, to live the same life that we do, one in which they can provide for themselves, maybe have an apartment or a house, and that shouldn't be limited to anybody just based on the fact that they may have differing abilities. And so from that perspective, we always want to understand how we're doing within MCPS and preparing us for the first steps that are getting to that point where folks of all abilities can be self-sufficient. And so I really want to applaud MCPS. I know, and I'll just say this, that no system's perfect. There are always going to be challenges in terms of, and I know parents, as we were talking about what parents want for their children, parents always want the best. And if you don't always get the best, it may be seen as it's a disappointment within the system. And some of that is the case in some instances. We can't, the system isn't perfect. And so from that perspective, what we try and do is we strive to make sure that we can continue to learn from some of the challenges that we face and how we can get better and ensuring that we're doing everything we can to support every single child. And so that's a constant process. It never stops. But I will say that I will tout the fact that there are many parents of differing abilities and special needs children who come to Montgomery County because of the robust programs and what we do and what we provide. I've talked to some of them. I know them. I'll never forget, I was in a golf tournament and was talking to a gentleman, and he said, "Craig, my wife and I are thinking about moving into your district." I said, "Oh, really?" I was like, what is it? Is it the Soccerplex? Is it Germantown Town Center? Is it, because they were looking at Germantown. And he said, "No, it's the schools." He said, "We're thinking about putting our child at Longview." And I said, "Wow, that's amazing," because my daughters at the time went to Matsunaga. And I said, I can tell you that it's a fantastic school, and you would be very happy there. They live in Germantown now, and their child is matriculated through and is doing great. And it's just one of those things where, again, it says something about the fact that we need to be proud of the fact that we do really, really well. At the same time as we acknowledge how we can continue to get better. And so I think that we're doing a great job of that. And so that's what this work session is about, to talk about what it is that we're continuing to do and how we can continue to reach even more of our kids and make sure that they're living up to their fullest potential. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Howard, unless any of my colleagues have any opening remarks. All right.
So I'll just quickly comment that the staff report just includes some background information on some of the special education funding, enrollment, and staffing issues that we typically see when the committee reviews the MCPS budget. But as the chair mentioned, the purpose of today's work session was to talk more broadly about special education programs and services. So MCPS has prepared a presentation to walk through, and the things that we asked them to focus on are the overall vision and strategy for special education services, some of the funding, enrollment, and staffing trends, especially considering the additional funding that was received in FY20 with the Kerwin money and the potential for future additional Kerwin funding. a discussion of some of the programs and services within the Office of Special Education, and then also a discussion of special education student performance information, which is something that MCPS has been working on along with the broader data performance and dashboard measures that they've implemented. So with that, I'll turn it over to MCPS staff to walk through their presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Howard.
And Mr. Howard, you touched on it, but let me just, so when it comes to special education funding, formulaically speaking, MCPS, as well as all other 23 jurisdictions throughout the state, have been shorted. We have never received the proper amount of funding from the state that we should have to ensure that those kids are having those futures that we talked about, that we aspire to provide. And so what Montgomery County Public Schools and many other school systems throughout the state have done is repurposed money and backfilled where the state has not put forward that funding. I want to be very clear that the Kerwin funding, while yes it is additional, is just getting us closer to what we should have had all along. And so what that really does is allow for us, because we made a commitment, and I want to thank the board, you know, of which the council president was a part of for a number of years, and made those types of decisions about committing to special education funding, understanding how important it was, and that just because the state didn't give us the right amount of funding didn't mean that we were going to shortchange these students. And so I really just want to say that now when we're looking at these formulas that hopefully we'll have some sort of decision by the end of the year, will allow for us to really start to see some more strides being made in having the resources behind the things that we talk about, and allow our school system even more flexibility when it comes to ensuring that we support our kids with differing abilities and special needs. So I just want to say thank you for the commitment that you've continued to make, understanding that you haven't received the financial funding from the state that you should have. So.
First of all, my name is Kevin Lowndes. I'm Associate Superintendent for Special Education. I'd like to introduce the folks with me so everyone knows. But I would like to thank County Council for allowing us to come today and talk about special education. And I will say we are very fortunate to be living and working in Montgomery County, because the funding that we do provide our students receiving special education services is better than most of the other counties in the state. So we do appreciate, we do acknowledge that, you know, we're very fortunate to be in Montgomery County, and with the Kerwin money, we really are able to, like you said, provide some more resources that we weren't able to without the Kerwin money. So, Julie, if you want to just introduce yourself and your position.
Good
we'll
afternoon,
go right down.
Julie Hall. I'm the director for the division. Julie Hall, the director for the Division of Business, Fiscal, and Information Systems.
Hi, I'm Amy Kropp, Director of Pre-K Special Programs and Related Services in the Office of Special Ed.
Philip Lynch, Director, Department of Special Education Services for the K-12 side.
So what I've done is I've put together a brief overview just to kind of let you know where we currently are in the state of special education for Montgomery County Public Schools. And then my understanding, the rest of the time, most of the time will be spent answering some questions that you might have and updating you on any type of things that you're interested in. So I will begin by saying, you know, we are responsible for the education of children from birth to 21. And we're responsible to have a free and appropriate education in the least restrictive environment. And it's very we take that very important, and it's a priority for us to make sure that we're able to have kids receive their special education services in their home school whenever possible. And we've made it a focus to get more students back into their home schools with supports to get their appropriate educational services in their home schools. But there are some times where the students, based on their needs, need to be in a more restrictive placement. And we talked a little bit about Longview in the beginning, so that's for students that have very intensive needs and health concerns. And we wouldn't be able to provide those types of services within their home schools. So we do have 4 special schools that meet the needs of students that have really intensive needs. First of all, I want to go over the funding. When you look at the funding for special education services, what you'll see is the majority of the money goes to positions. And we'll see when we share about the Kerwin funding, almost all of it went to positions because it takes a lot of resources in order to staff our special education programs. And I'm going to explain a little bit why when I go over the enrollment. But we are currently growing at a faster rate than Montgomery County Public Schools as a whole is. And that means we're a greater percentage of students next year will be receiving special education services than this prior year. And where we're growing are students with our most intense needs. And I'll show you a little of that when we go over the programs that are growing the fastest. So overall, here's our growth. And you'll see that, you know, we're growing about the same every year, but the growth overall has slowed down some. So therefore, the percentage has actually increased, but the number of students that are actually growing are probably about the same. Now, for those folks that don't have a good understanding as to how that can possibly be the case, people don't always have a good understanding that, you know, we have students that are currently in Montgomery County Public Schools that are being identified for special education services. Unlike enrollment, which is a new student actually moving into the county to become part of the special education program, you can currently live within Montgomery County and then be identified for services. And so that's why our growth continues to grow at a consistent rate, whereas the rest of the county is slowing down. These are our programs that we're growing the fastest. And so when you look at our students with autism services, you know, we have many children in the county being identified with autism services, for autism service, but we also have many families moving in. So in the county, we are known for having awesome services for our autism, students with autism. And many of these programs that are growing at the fastest rate have a very low teacher to student ratio. In other words, it's 1 teacher to 6 students to 2 paraeducators. And so when you're growing in those programs at a fast rate, you need more teachers for a smaller number of students. Unlike when we grow in the regular population, say a 3rd grade classroom where you have 28 students, it's 28 students no matter what, and it's a consistent growth. Whereas in special ed, we have we staff our programs differently based on what the needs of the students are. And so when you look at the other programs, our students with our social emotional special education services, that's growing. And that's also many students, few students to teacher ratio. Our homeschool model, this is our students that are back in the elementary receiving special education services within the general education classes. And the reason why you see it growing at such a fast rate is because that's been a priority for the county over the last 5 or 6 years. And we've given more staffing to the homeschools in order to meet the students back in their gen ed classrooms with their peers, with the idea that many families want to be with the neighborhood kids and want to participate in neighborhood activities, and this allows them to do that. Hours-based staffing is also a similar model, but at the middle school level. And then our PEP, which is our preschool. So it's interesting, what we're seeing now in our younger ages is pre-K program, is that we're seeing a rapid growth. And part of that, and Amy will talk a little bit about it later, is that we've really put an emphasis now on having inclusive models where we're looking at our pre-K programs in the gen ed with our Title I schools, and we're bringing back kids that would be in pre-K programs that were in self-contained classes back into their home schools and within a larger boundary so that they can be in a more inclusive program early on, with the idea that then they would be actually better equipped academically because they would be getting access to that curriculum early on that all the pre-K students are getting in the county. And then they'll be more kindergarten ready when they move on because they'll be with their peers. So if you look at the next slide, this is how quickly we're growing with our teachers. And I will say one of the most difficult things to do right now is to find special education teachers. So we're giving out the positions, but we're having a difficult time finding the bodies to fill those positions. And so I know sometimes people will say, well, we don't have a body to teach this class, and sometimes the public misinterprets that and thinking that the county hasn't actually allocated the position. But really, we have allocated the position, but unfortunately, we haven't been able to find an actual body to put in that classroom, and so they end up having a long-term substitute for the classroom. And we're working very closely with Office of Human Resources to recruit and find more people to come work for Montgomery County Public Schools and the Office of Special Education. Actually, we have a meeting this afternoon with Henry Johnson to try to be a little bit more creative in helping us fill these positions this year. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just on that point, so I don't lose the question, how many vacancies special ed teachers do you have?
Currently?
Yeah.
So I think we're at around 90. That's full and part-time positions.
System-wide. So some are
System-wide.
paraeducators, some are full, some are, well, so explain the full and part-time.
So they're
Distinct.
teachers' positions.
So they're all teachers, some are full-time.
Some schools do not have a full-time position, they have a
Okay.
part-time position that they're trying to fill. And some schools have a full-time position that they're trying to fill.
90 over all 100, and that's across the 160, or 207 schools, I'm sorry, 162,000
Yeah.
students, okay.
So we are already in a, just to let you know, we are already in a deficit going into the year. We weren't able to hire all of our special education teachers last year.
Right.
So going into this year, we're already behind. And so we allocated more, especially with the Kerwin funding, with the growth, we're getting back to where we need to be. And so we are already in a deficit looking to hire. Now what we did was, in the past, we've held back some of these positions. And so we tried to wait to find out where all the students would end up in September, and then allocated some new positions within September. And what ended up happening in the past is we were never able to hire those positions that we allocated in September. And so what we ended up doing was allocating all positions up front with the idea that we'd be able to hire everybody. And then we'd start, if we had to, look at where the bodies were and where they weren't and where we thought they were going to be. And then shift some of the teaching positions around to schools that needed the teachers, and then taking them from positions that were actually overhired because the students moved or there just wasn't as many students vertical articulation up into a middle school that we thought there was going to be.
Got it. And I'm sure there's national trends, but one of the things it would be great to see as you're meeting with Henry and where the breakdown of where this is and how it's changed over the last couple of years of where these positions are and the impact you think it's having on the classroom. Obviously,
So some of it is the our program, our autism program that's growing the fastest. Some of it is the programs, because our autism program that's growing the fastest are our students with the most intense needs.
Right.
And that's actually a difficult position to fill.
Yeah.
And so it ends up happening that we're growing in some of the areas that they're most difficult to fill. There just isn't a lot of college graduates coming out with that type of experience and comfortable in order to teach in that environment. And so we're talking to University of Maryland and some of these other schools to figure out, is there anything that we can do or they can do to partner up with us to have more people come out and be prepared to teach some of these programs.
So not as much cost of living and some of the things we hear, but you think it's just literally the pipeline is hurting.
Right now it's a huge race between Montgomery County Public Schools, Fairfax County, the district, Howard,
to get these teachers.
Get special ed teachers.
So how do we make ourselves more
Exactly.
continually competitive? Because this is a case where the money is there, but we just can't fill them. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So something to come back to potentially, but thank you. I appreciate
Everywhere I go, I said, does anyone out there know someone that wants to work in special
Right,
education?
right.
Let me know,
Okay.
because paraeducators also are positions that we're trying to fill. And so anyone that's had a certain amount of credits from Montgomery College actually qualifies to be a paraeducator, and we bring them in. And so actually we find quite a few people in talking to folks and saying, do you have a brother, a cousin, a neighbor, or anyone that's looking for a position? Please let them know, email me, and then we'll try to get them in.
Okay.
Because it's just, and we're starting to try to partner up a little bit more with Montgomery College to see if they have students that have not graduated yet, but have like a half day. We have a few students that have half day schedules, and then they're paraeducators for us during the day, and then they go to classes at night.
And I'd love to just see that, where the gaps are and the holes are. I'm trying to be clear with the committee. I'm one of those fuzzy people that never says anything, so thank you.
We'll do that for follow-up.
Council President Navarro.
Thank you. Right, so I'm wondering if there's then a way for our staff to make some connections with the conversation that we are engaged in right now in terms of our workforce strategies, because we tend to hear certain, particular positions. I know like in HHS, there's a lot of issues regarding bilingual therapists. It's always a problem. It's been a chronic problem. I think special education has been another one, right? And so to the extent that then we can, add this to the list of particular positions, so that as we get into this conversation and possibly, and legislation, et cetera, around our workforce strategies, we can be a lot more intentional. So it's not hoping that, the colleges would produce them, but it's maybe, working together to allocate funding to partner with USG in order to say, hey, we would like, 30 positions or 30 graduates that then come into Montgomery County. We sign them, we give them some kind of an incentive, but we grow it, in a very intentional way. And I think that's really important, because I can guarantee you that's probably some of the concerns that we hear time and time and time again from our constituents, with regards to special education. I know it goes back into this issue of, do we have the appropriate number of staffing? Where are we with that? So I just wanted to connect those dots as Fed and many of us, are engaged in this conversation about workforce development, WorkSource Montgomery. Let's go ahead and add this to one of those professions, occupations that we would like to be more intentional.
Yeah, I'll talk with Mr. Smith and make sure that's added to the list. But I see parallels also with the discussions of the pre-K workforce that's been discussed about how to create a pipeline for there. And this is another pipeline area that I think maybe hasn't been discussed as much, but could benefit from the same attention.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add an example of what we're doing. Is years ago there was a significant shortage of speech language pathologists that has lessened over time. But several years ago we started a partnership. So MCPS funds tuition for University of Maryland speech therapy, speech language pathology undergraduates, with the expectation that they give us 3 years of service, which has been remarkably successful. So we've continued, and we fund a good bit of their undergraduate tuition, and then they owe us. Yeah. And our retention on those is great.
Yeah, it reminds me of what happened with the nursing shortage in the state, and where we did that, and we made it a workforce development issue. So, Council President, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's a great idea about really making it an initiative. And then priority, of course, Councilmember Jawando, what you're talking about identifying where those are, I would likely gauge that just as we have challenges with some of our teaching positions and filling them in certain areas, that they will follow suit with some of those same sorts of things as well. And so from that perspective, that's probably what we'll find. I'm not sure, but it probably is aligned. Let me just say that I hope that when it comes to, and I know that it's not just for pay, but keep in mind that if you're a person who's been financially challenged all of your life and you do well in school, the likelihood of you going into a job that puts you in a status in which you could make more money via going one route versus another certainly is something to think about. And that's been our discussion with Kerwin, is that how many of our high-performing students who would do the work but choose because of salaries alone and says, yeah, but I've worked really, really hard. I saw my family struggle. I saw my mom struggle. I saw my dad struggle. And I don't want to struggle like they did. And so I want to take this high-paying job. And it's one of the things where we've taken lessons via our Kerwin recommendations of what we see in other high-performing countries, to where they pay their teachers as a whole commensurate with other higher-level professional positions. And so this is why, again, it has nothing to do with MCPS itself. This is a systematic Maryland problem, not just a Montgomery County problem. Let me be very clear about that. but it's one in which we hope that this additional Kerwin funding will also help. Just as you said, your money went straight to to staffing, right? And we understand that. And so certainly that's one of the things that hopefully, if the state actually implements Kerwin in its full fidelity, will accomplish in terms of raising the pay of teachers as a whole to make them more competitive with some of these other professional positions, which will then make it more attractive, and you'll eliminate some of, not all, but some of that gap that you continue to see. That is part of the challenge, and I just want to address that elephant in the room because, look, we know Montgomery County pays more than most of the jurisdictions throughout the state, so we know we're at the top. And so from that perspective, it's not as though we can do much more than pay more than everybody else does in the state. But at the same time, we know that when you're competing against a technology company, or you're competing against going to law school, or whatever the case may be, to where it's much more lucrative, that also does impact, the cohort that's coming out. And so we need to be real about that as well. So I think this is a really good discussion about that.
And the other thing that really affects special education teachers is the amount of paperwork they have to do. And it seems like any time there's a new law or something's being passed, it usually impacts the special education teacher where they have to do some other type of compliance. And, we worked with OHRD to look at why did we lose so many teachers in special education. Are they moving out of the county? And what we ended up finding out was no, they're not actually moving out of the county, and they're not leaving teaching. They're going to teach general education classes. They're getting out of special education because of the amount of paperwork. And so that's the other challenge with special education, is just the amount of paperwork that they have to do. So I put up the next couple of slides on student performance to show that we measure our students' performance just like all other students within Montgomery County Public Schools. And when the superintendent talks about all means all, he very much means students receiving special education services also. And so for us to be efficient, not only efficient, but effective, I should say. For us to be effective, we have to work with other offices within Montgomery County Public Schools. We cannot work within a silo. And so we're working with the Office of School Support and Improvement when we talk about student achievement, and when they go out and they talk about student achievement within schools, they talk about students receiving special education services. We talk to the Office of Curriculum and ask, how can we partner up with you to make sure that the curriculum is more accessible to all students, and that students are getting the help and support they need, especially students, on our sake, we're being focused on our students that receive special education services, so the struggling students. How can we make sure that they're getting the supports that they need? And then when we talk about, social emotional support, we talk to our family community service side of the shop, and we look at our restorative justice and talk about how can we be part of that, because it's very important that we are included in all three of those areas in order for us to be effective, because really we're looking at access and opportunity for our students, just like we are for all students. And it's our job in our office to be the advocates for students receiving special education services. And so I'm going to show you some data, but what I want to focus it on is what we're doing to change the data and to improve the data. So you'll see in 2014-15 the number of test takers, and then 2017 and 2018 is just showing that the number of test takers is increasing, and then where they're increasing the most based on their primary code on the IEP. The next one shows that we are improving when we look at the PARC ELA performance for our students with a disability, and it shows you under what disability that we're improving. And so these are our diploma-bound students that would be taking the PARC. So we also measure our performance with the evidence of learning, and we look at how our students doing at a high level. We look at the elementary, middle, and the high school. And once again, this is the percentage of students that are meeting 2 out of the 3 measures. And this is a college readiness end of the year. And so this would be grades 2-5 for elementary, grade 8 for the middle school, and grade 11 for the high school.
have a dip in our high school performance as far as literacy goes, what do we think or we attribute that to?
So when we look at our overall literacy, what we've seen is that although we've improved, it's not at the level that we need to be. And so we're looking at building actually our foundational reading skills and supporting our elementary and our middle schools to make sure that they're ready at the high school level. Because the high school is taking actually the what they've read and they have to apply it on the PARC test. It's much more difficult test for our students. So they really have to be able to read something, synthesize it, and be able to apply it in order to do well in the test. So therefore they need a really strong foundational skill in reading and understanding how to read and knowing what they've read and how to apply it in order to be successful. And so we're putting a lot of our energy next year into really building the foundational reading skills at the elementary schools, with also putting some help and support at the middle schools.
Do they use a lot of technology with our students with disabilities, especially when it comes to literacy? I'm curious.
As
i.e. a Chromebook or some sort of tablet. And the only reason why I'm asking this, I was reading a study that came out that talked about literacy as a whole and how literacy rates are going down across the United States because of technology. And what they said was people used to read books, and because you had to read and then write some sort of, and required, the actual writing of and how it attaches to the brain in terms of remembering what it was, the processing versus on the screen, that there's something with brain function that doesn't do the same in terms of retention. And I have to find it. I read it and I thought it was very intriguing. But they were talking about, it was called like the loss of literacy or something. And they were talking about how technology is actually, and I'm just curious as to whether or not, because I know with some of our students with disabilities, we rely even more on technology than we do in some of our other general education cohorts. And so maybe there's some correlation there, or maybe not. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so I just read stuff.
Well, one thing we tried this year, kind of along that lines, is we tried the text-to-speech feature with a couple of schools, and we talked to them about trying it with all their kids within their building and not just have the accommodation. And there was a lot of hesitancy from the teachers, thinking that if we allow kids to have text-to-speech and all kids to have it, then they're not going to be able to learn to read because they're going to allow this machine to read to them. And what they ended up finding out at those 3 schools that we piloted was actually their MAP scores increased. And part of it is it allowed students to access the complex text and get a better understanding of what it is, and they still worked on improving their reading skills and still worked on reading. So, but to answer your question, Phil, I don't know if you want to answer that one, but I just think that it depends on their accommodations with students receiving special education services, whether they would get more access to the technology or not.
So we do have a increased use of the Chromebooks, and students are really using them more and more for access to curriculum materials. So that would be interesting to kind of follow that to see if that's a piece of the puzzle. I think going back to Kevin's remarks, I think for us, we have a renewed emphasis on those foundational reading skills, regardless of how the students are receiving the instruction. Through the implementation of or adoption of new curriculum materials, really making sure that when the text gets to that place where it becomes more complex and challenging, typically around 3rd grade, that students are have those foundational skills to make that shift. We've found that there are students that can certainly learn how to read through memorizing word lists and whatnot, but then they get to that place where things really amplify, and then it breaks down for them if they haven't been really educated on those strong foundational components. So that was really a key component of our search for new curriculum materials, and we have really partnered more closely with the curriculum office. It's been really a great partnership over the last few years, and Dr. Navarro has really emphasized, our role in selecting the new curriculum materials, making sure that that they have those strong foundational components and that they align with, scope and sequence of how students, for example, should learn how to read. So I think that, that's something that that happens regardless of the platform, and then, from there, we, as students get older, we have to determine where to best bring in what I call their compensatory skills. So if a student still needs to learn to use the text to speech because we don't want them to be in 5th grade and not learning the social studies content and the science content. And so it's a balancing act. You don't want to say right off the bat you're going to rely on these compensatory skills. You have to have the remedial component, and then it's like the scales go up on one side and they go down on the other. And you have that conversation with the families. Hey, where is the right time for us to start to bring in those compensatory skills and for them to really lean more on that. Same thing with handwriting. But it would be interesting to follow to see if that data that you're citing is bears out.
But I do think bringing on the new curriculum is really going to help students with special education services, because unlike in the past, Dr. Navarro in the curriculum office emphasized that we need to be in on the beginning, and so we actually helped draft the RFP and to make sure that it had accessibility features. And then now we are actually part of the rollout, and so when we're training teachers, we're training all teachers on how to use the accessibility features within the curriculum so that they can support all students that are struggling. And the other thing is with special education, we bought an intervention that's a part of the curriculum, and it really looks at, for students that are still on grade level but are struggling understanding the content that was just taught, how can it be retaught a different way so that they get a good understanding of what's being taught, with the idea that they're not going to get farther and farther behind. We're going to keep kids, we have a better chance of keeping kids caught up as we move along. But then we did buy more of a more intensive interventions for students that are farther behind than a year and that they need more. And then we're teaching, we're working with the curriculum office on using a universal screener that looks at, okay, here's where our kids are really struggling. They're struggling much more than this tier 2 intervention, the one that's on the grade level. They actually need a more intensive one, and therefore we're going to provide that, and we're going to provide it now, and we're going to provide it whatever one they need. So if they need it for decoding, it'll provide it for decoding. If they need it for comprehension, it'll provide it. And so it'll be a much more targeted approach to help our students get caught up early on. So as we break down, part of the data platform, it allows us to look at our programs and how our programs are doing. Before we had the new data platform, we just received data based on students with disabilities, and it didn't allow us to look at, okay, what programs do we need to target in on, and how do we need to focus in on some of our efforts and our resources in order to help them to do well, who's doing well and who's not doing so well. And so if you look at our homeschool model, which is our elementary students in their homeschool, you'll see that they are not doing as well as they need to be doing. And I think that helped us focus in on, we really need to be looking at the foundational reading skills, because you need those good foundational reading skills in order to do well in the 3rd grade. And so once where you have to start using the material that you've read, you'll see that the students have started to struggle, which shows us that they didn't have really good foundational reading skills to be able to move on and use that to apply to the material. And that's really why we're focusing in on the curriculum rollout and making sure that we have the supports. Go ahead.
Councilmember Giovando.
Thank you. Just to ask, I think I know why the GTLD kindergarten, they're just not taking that.
So,
But I'm less clear on the autism, the 0 in the 6th grade district literacy test. So could you just explain that to me?
sure. So GTLD doesn't start in kindergarten.
Right.
And so that's why.
Yeah, that one
Yeah.
but the other one I wasn't sure.
And the other one is they must not have given the district-wide literacy for some reason. So that this also allows us to look into, okay, why isn't that the Asperger's program they got a 0 on the district literacy test, and we need to make sure. And it might be that they waited to give it. This is a transition, so this is mid-year.
Got it.
And so
Okay.
they might not have given that test yet,
Okay, got it.
which I'm guessing because everything else is so high except that one.
Yeah, it seemed to be an outlier. I thought there was a reason, but I just sort of had asked. And then you talked about the homeschool model, which it's like you said, you targeted in on that, which is good because I think as you suggested, it seems to be there's a significant drop off there.
And the other thing we did with the middle school, which is the hours base, is we bought an intervention for next year, a reading intervention, to roll out to all our middle schools. Because what we ended up seeing was that we were having students still in the middle schools that need more intensive reading interventions than we had to provide in the past. So we went out and we put an RFP out. We got a middle school reading intervention for them also.
Great, thank you.
And I'll just add that in that third grade area, oftentimes students are identified around that second, third grade level. So that may be, a lot of that red may be those students who are you're initially saying, oh, we've tried certain interventions and now and they haven't responded to those interventions, and they've gone through the process of being identified as a student with a learning disability, and so we're just starting to work with them maybe that second, third grade level, and so they're coming in with that deficit, and then it's our goal to try to get them up to grade level.
Yeah, and so you bring about an important point, one in which the superintendent and I agree on many things. This is one where we tend to differ a little bit when it comes to about early intervention. And so it's something that you said, which is why I think that having some sort of assessment that's there, again, it's an evaluative tool, but one that's a part of the Kerwin recommendations to be able to start to identify some of these challenges earlier will give us, because typically we're finding out in third grade, because that's the first time that we're doing real assessments. If we actually did a kindergarten readiness assessment, not necessarily the KRA itself. I know there's problems with that, but some sort of assessment that gives teachers the tools, we can get to them earlier than waiting until this third grade time. So I think that's a very important point, that we're seeing that third grade is an early identifier. I'd like to see it get to where those reds are actually at the kindergarten level, because then that would say that we've started doing that identification earlier. And then it would mean that we'd see more of the greens, yellows, and blues in those other areas in third grade. So, great point.
So the next slide is just showing you how we're looking to improve our student data. Like I said, we understand that we have to partner up with the other offices in order to improve the data. I think, part of the reorganization within central office last year really gave us the opportunity to work more closely with other offices, and actually we are now working, and everyone sees that special education students improving improving the data for students receiving special education services is all of our mission. It's not just Montgomery County the special education offices. And in the past, when we were aligned with all the resources and everything for special education within our office, people kind of just handed everything off with a student receiving special education services to our office and then expected us to fix it. And I think if you look at the data over time, things never really improved that much. So this actually, by restructuring and having that first line of defense and having it within the school improvement plan, students receiving special education services as a focus group of who's achieving and who's not achieving, will allow us to work with that office to help and support schools with students receiving special education services. And so one of the areas that we've done that, and we talked a little bit about today, is the curriculum and working with the curriculum office and buying it, but also buying and aligning the resources with the curriculum office to help all struggling students, with the hopes that we help and support students before they become identified. One of the philosophies in the past was that the interventions that were offered within special education weren't offered to a student until they were identified. And so it really took a student not achieving for an extended period of time in order to get the resources that they might need. And so now there's a different way of looking at it, in the fact that now we're supporting all students based on their needs, not based on their label. And so that a student that looks like they need a more intensive support within reading doesn't have to be labeled a student receiving special education. in order to get the intervention that might help. And our hope is that this will help us not over-identify students, that if we truly get a student that doesn't need special education services, they get the intervention, it works, then everyone benefits. But if we offer the intervention and it still doesn't work, then we need to look at special education services, because then we have to provide different supports and look at a different specialized education in order to help that student achieve at a high level. So the other thing that we've done this past year was we've trained at least two teachers in every elementary school with Orton Gillingham. I'm going to have Phil talk about that. He's our specialist in that area and has a strong understanding of.
So, thank you. So we've partnered with an outside vendor who's expert in delivering the methodology within an intensive 5-day program. Orton Gillingham methodology really is that foundational structured literacy approach for teaching students those decoding skills. And so unfortunately it's not something that that most of our teachers are coming out of our higher education programs with the background in. So if you graduated from University of Maryland and have a teaching degree, you would not have had to take specific coursework that teaches you that type of methodology. And so it's something that we would love to see pushed a little bit further in higher ed. So we are essentially kind of backfilling some of that knowledge by sending teachers through this intensive training. And as Kevin said, we started at the ground level and trying to make sure that we have at least a minimum of 2 teachers from each elementary school this year. And he alluded to it earlier, we were expanding this upcoming year to a teacher at each middle school level. Where we have some intensive programs or services, our elementary learning centers, for example, those schools are receiving additional slots to receive training. So you may have a school that has 5, 6, 7, 8 teachers who would ultimately go through that intensive 5-day training. And the purpose of that course is to really get those teachers grounded in that scope and sequence. And we see the training being implemented at different levels at the school building. So one of the people that is going through the training at each school is the reading specialist. So the reading specialist may be observing classroom instruction and seeing that some students need those methods embedded, and then work with the teacher as kind of a consultation method. And then the other way that it may manifests itself is actually the pooling of small groups where they're working with it in a more intensive tier 3 type of intervention setting. So it can have these different layers, and then from there we're hoping to continue with the funding to circle back and just continue to increase the knowledge base at the schools, so that eventually we're at a place where all teachers who work with emerging readers have that foundational level. And then we've selected curriculum materials that also mirror that scope and sequence as well. It was one of the criteria for our curriculum selection to say, here's this methodology for structured literacy, and how what curriculum materials use that same mirror, so we're not confusing students in terms of how we're teaching them to read.
The hope is eventually. Oh, sorry.
Go when you're done.
Oh, okay. President Navarro, do you want to? I just wanted to say the hope is that eventually we have everyone trained, like Phil said, and right now we're paying an outside consultant to come in here and do it, and we are looking at a cheaper alternative, and much similar to like when we rolled out Skillful Teacher. We first started rolling it out by bringing in outside vendors, and then we ended up being able to train our folks to be trainers. And so we're looking now into how do we get some folks within Montgomery County Public Schools to be trainers. But next year we'll have coaches, and then we'll have more people trained.
Council President Navarro.
Okay, thank you. So one of the areas that I know continues to be a challenge has to do with how to best engage and really incorporate, parents so that they can be our partners and they be the best advocates for their students. And it's no secret that the special education arena, it's a very stressful and very complicated arena. And for a parent, it adds a layer of concern and of just, the stress trying to understand really what is the best possible program for my child. How do I monitor their progress? How do I know that this is, really happening? And I feel like this is a constant theme. Now, I believe that, of course, there's an added layer when you have issues of cultural competency or language barriers, right? Like that. So then you have this added layer that makes it even more daunting, to be honest, right? So I know in 2016, I had a conversation with the superintendent, and actually through this Latino Civic Project that I was, I've been engaged in, there was a lot of feedback from some of those parents regarding issues of special education, and so I know, Superintendent Smith was really wonderful in meeting with them. This was back in 2016. They formed a group, they came, they were prepared to share their experiences, etc. And for a while, that group was really, I think very much integrated in some of the things that were going on in MCPS, but that kind of fell by the wayside. So I just bring this up because I'm wondering, in terms of, all of these are really important issues, but in terms of parental engagement, given the demographics of our school system, knowing that, even for somebody who is college educated, et cetera, it is a daunting process to navigate. But when you add issues of perhaps, socioeconomic challenges, or if the parents themselves, have not had formal education, or just language barriers or cultural barriers, what innovative things have you done to address this constant, challenge of ours? And I find myself sometimes at a loss. I will get, I'll be contacted by folks who are, have graduate degrees and are just kind of, frustrated, just like I might, meet with somebody from, who is, low income, who doesn't speak English very well, but obviously wants to be the best advocate, and they have similar experiences. Right, and they describe to me, particular instances where they come to an IEP meeting and it's like, wait a minute, this has not been followed, or what's happening, or their child is described in a way that is not the most positive way, and then they're, and inevitably they'll say to me, well, if that's happening to me, imagining what's happening to that mom, que no habla inglés, and so anyway, what have you done in order to, establish, and, that kind of connection to parents, to give them the tools to empower them to understand what it is that you're doing and how can they best participate and be the best advocate they can for their child?
Great question. Thank you. So starting last year, or 2 years ago now, we offered regional parent nights where, the first one was what is special education, and kind of a special education 101, where we explained the process, explained the testing, the IEP meeting, and everything that a parent needs that's going to be going into special education the first time. And then we offered it one up county, one mid county, and one down county. And then based on the feedback, we received good feedback on, this is great for parents that are going through it the first time, but I'm not going through the first time, but I still have questions about special education. I need a little bit more. And so this past year we did breakout sessions at the sites for parents where we would have, different topics that they could go to and they could learn more about. We're going to continue doing that next year. And the other thing is that we have an interpreter at our SEAC meetings, which is like special education PTSA meetings, which we have once a month, which we really would like to have actually more people to participate, and we need to figure out how to get more people to come to that meeting. And that's held at Carver. And that we actually provide topics based on parent input. So we get all the parent input at the end of one meeting for the next meeting, and then we try to provide whatever the majority of the parents want to hear about. But we also, at that time, meet with them individually at the end of the meeting and try to problem solve the individual cases. Because, no child is the same, and it seems like each one has a different concern. And we just don't want to open that up in front of everybody, so we try to do it more on an individualized basis. Yeah, go ahead and go. Yep.
I can also talk about in the pre-K world, special education pre-K in PEP, we have parent educators associated with each of our classes. So not full-time necessarily, but sometimes depending on how many classes in a school. But those are really sort of the hand holders, teachers of the parents at this early age. And they're doing, one-on-one, always available. They're not classroom-based, so they're available by email all the time. And then we'll also hold some night regional kind of big topics, and then also at their sites, morning and evening kind of, some might be toilet training your child, your 3-year-old with a developmental disability, or sensory strategies for your preschooler with autism, or how to navigate special education, or what does the kindergarten curriculum look like, and those kind of things based on need. So we do have parent educators that can do that one-to-one with parents, but also then hold these small groups.
I think I appreciate that. I would only reiterate that, of course, as the school system becomes even more diverse, right, and as we see all the languages spoken, et cetera, I think it would be, at least for me, I would be interested in seeing how you could deploy, much more creative strategies, utilizing your community partnerships division, et cetera, to put that out there. You got to go where they are. That's the challenge with Carver, having meetings at Carver, is that it's so important to go where they are. And more importantly, if you have areas where there might be issues with transportation, but because I feel like the more information that it's out there, the more that you can empower parents with knowledge, then the best that they can be advocates, and quite frankly, then the calmer everybody is, because then you feel like, okay, I think I know what I'm supposed to ask for or demand, et cetera, and how do I go about that? So I would just offer that, and if you don't mind, I'm probably going to send you the list of these parents who began, those meetings, because they kind of, I think at that time, Ms. Chris Richardson was kind of like our point person, so kind of fell by the wayside, but I think they also can provide you with great feedback, especially in this community that I know is hard to reach sometimes. These parents are very well versed on all of these issues, so they can almost be also kind of a liaison, to you and that community. But I do think that that's a big part of the frustration that I hear, is just this absence of constant engagement, communication, just explain to me what's happening type thing that needs to occur. And in instances, it might be very legitimate concerns of things that maybe were missed that the parent can then help alleviate.
I did want to add that to the other, you brought up going to a meeting and not feeling welcome. So we did actually do an online video for our special educators that are out in the schools, and kind of highlighting what is a great IEP meeting, what does it look like, and how do you make parents feel comfortable in coming in, and kind of reminding them that, they're worried about their own child, who's their most precious gift, and they want to make sure, they're getting what they need for their child. And you need to remember that. And you kind of, because sometimes I think when you're sitting in your 20th IEP meeting in 2 weeks, you kind of maybe forget that. And so we are doing some online training, continue to train our folks on how to run a meeting and make parents feel comfortable.
Thank you. And obviously, I think for the Board of Education as well as the County Council, it's a big investment of $372 basically $1 million, and so we want to make sure that this is an investment that is responsive to what you just described, the most precious, children and their future, and so it is important to constantly do a lot of these things. Thank you.
So in addition to the online training, and tomorrow we're actually doing our summer meetings with our secondary, what we call our RITSEs, our resource teachers. Those are like the department chairs for all of our middle schools and high schools, special education programs. And one of the topics is, and we're actually having a really experienced department chairs lead the way on this, is how to address challenging IEP meetings. We also, I think in the past, we've had a little bit of hubris at central office where we felt like we could do a lot of this from the top down. And so, especially under the reorganization, we're realizing, that's just silly thinking. We need to our schools need to all have the skills and capacity to deal with a challenging meeting, or, they have to know how to create a climate of respect. All of them have to be able to do this. And so we started training those folks that are the IEP chairs we realized most of them are our assistant principals. And so we started calling on our assistant principals, and surprisingly, a lot of our principals popped up in the training as well. And so we're trying to hand that off to them at the ground level. And part of it is through the video that Kevin's having, and part of it's going to be through, we have these great materials that we developed when we went through an independent audit several years ago, and those folks are going to be using those training materials. Not everybody, we sit in the public limelight, so we know how to, what we call rationally detach. When we're challenged, we know how to hold our emotions back, but a lot of folks at the ground level, they're not used to, except for that 1 or 2 meetings they have a year, when they're feeling attacked, they get defensive. And now you have this really ugly situation, and people are talking about their child, so it's personal, and so they may lash out when they feel like things aren't going the right way. And people have to know how to respond to that. We take it for granted because we respond to challenging situations all the time, but a lot of folks at the school level have to be trained on those skills. So we have to train them.
The last thing I will say, though, is that what you just described at the end is interesting, because we also have so many parents that they will never lash out because they don't even realize that they have the right to even advocate in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. And that's really concerning to me, especially, again, when I keep, track of who we are now in the school system. That's a real concern. And so we kind of have to constantly think also about so many of those parents who don't even know that they should be, kind of like saying, demanding certain things because, they don't have the tools, they don't have that information as well.
Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you, and I appreciate the council president. I often say this is the best committee, and I mean it. And
yes.
It's so important because a lot of us, and myself included, got into government because we wanted to lift up voices of what I call the non-squeaky wheel, and there are certainly, I love the squeaky wheels too, but we have to understand that there's many people, and in this context, I think it's even more so because you're talking about something so personal, your child's future and their life. You may have limited to no understanding of the documents. I mean, I just did an IEP meeting. My daughter was just identified autistic, and my wife and I are both lawyers, right? And we were in the meeting, and you're sitting in the small chair and you're talking about your child. You're emotional, and it's a very technical document. So imagine the person who, and I would consider myself a squeaky wheel, right? Probably one of the big, in that context. But even you can still feel intimidated by the way the IEP document is structured. And so I really want to underscore the point that there are so many parents that don't have the tools, don't feel that they're able to. And if you're doing these, because of our high volume, you could be churning through them and really not stop. Unless there's a couple times, and my meeting was one well, and they did a great job. But I'd say, hey, what about? Well, yeah. So, sorry, I buried the lead. You can breathe, but I had to say, hey, can we stop and talk about this? Can you understand? And I know this better than probably most people, and so I just really want to underscore that there's a lot of families, and we need to do more over and beyond to make sure people understand their rights. They understand what's going on, and so I just want to second that. I'm glad you brought that up.
I would just encourage all of you to also go online and look at
the video.
Just put in parent resources into our website. We've created a lot of documents that are translated into all of the top 6 languages, and they, there's an IEP side by side, for example, that you can take advantage of, and there are pieces that are translated, so it really walks you through what each page means.
I appreciate that. That actually wasn't my question, but I wanted to second that because I think it was great. Some of us saw this GAO study that came out on seclusion and restraint, and it said that we have in Montgomery County have the 2nd highest in the country. Now, obviously, we're the 15th or 16th largest school district in the country, so you would expect us to be somewhere around there, maybe, but it said we had the 2nd highest rates in the 2015 school year, 332 incidents of restraint and 120 incidents of seclusion. And then I read down, and then it looked like that number in 2018 had gone up to 681 incidents of seclusion and 1,480 incidents of restraint. I just wanted to know, the school system statement, which I saw, was that, hey, we're a large school system, it's comparable to our number. The study did also show that boys and students with disabilities were disproportionate in this. And having, again, I'm living this process right myself. I've done some tours and I've seen some of these seclusion rooms, just with the mat on the floor, and I just want to know, where are we on this, or what response are we taking? Are we looking at this in a critical way? Do we think there's things we need to change? Do we think we're doing it right? One of the things that, for example, that I thought, it was like, we're probably reporting right, and other places in the country probably aren't. And so that could explain the disparities. But I just wanted to give, since the public, for the millions watching at home, as I also often say, just what we're doing to address that, because I think I've heard from some constituents about it, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to address it here.
First of all, thank you for bringing it up. So we do take it very seriously. One of the things that we take great pride on actually is being transparent. And you take our training, and I invite all three of you to come take our training on crisis prevention. You'll see that we actually tell folks, no matter what, it's important that we report and that we call parents and we let them know that something happened, and therefore we had to have either a restraint or a seclusion. Now you'll see, the number is a high volume number, and the fact that it's actually, I can't remember the total, like 300 kids with all of those incidents. So you might have one or, some kids that get multiple incidents. But the other thing is that many of them are less than a minute, but it doesn't allow us to do time. And so the intensity is not that great for the overwhelming majority of the restraints that we report on. And so if I'm taking a student down the hallway, the student doesn't want to come with me, therefore I call someone else and we're helping guide that student down, that's a restraint, because we're moving a student where they don't want to go. And so, many of these are those types of restraints, but we do have other students that need some seclusion rooms because of the types of programming that they're in. And so one of the things that we tried to do in Montgomery County is bring more and more of our students back from non-public. I think if you looked at the budget, we still spend quite a bit of money on sending students to non-public, but in bringing more students back, we've had to set up some programs where require some of these seclusion rooms because the students act out and are very aggressive. So protect themselves and to protect others around them, part of their program actually is to have some seclusion, to allow them to calm down and de-escalate. But we are looking into it and making sure that, once again, that people are only using it where it's intended to be used, and they're not overusing it. And one of the things that we did was, this past year, we hired a full-time person that not only trains within restraint and seclusion, but actually does audits. And will actually, goes out and works with school teams. And so we are monitoring the data, and we're looking at, okay, here's a school that's having a large majority of incidents. Why is that? And that person will go out, we'll look at it, we'll look at the student, who is actually being restrained, making sure that it's either done appropriately or making sure that the student's within the proper program. And they might need another placement or another type of program. I know last year we had an incident, with students that are very aggressive, it's difficult to find programs sometimes that will take them. And so we did have an elementary school last year that had an incident with a student that had over 100 restraints, but we were in the process of trying to find another location for that student, not within the county, because we actually didn't have the resources to be able to provide what that student needed. And so, in that case, we did look at, oh my goodness, look at all the restraints the students take, and why is that happening? And we did go out there and we did work with the school, and we did bring them up through the CI, which is the central IEP process, to find another location for that student and help that student be appropriately placed. And so we do take it extremely serious, and we do make sure that, once again, we're auditing to make sure it's done correctly. We're auditing to make sure that, it's a student who needs it and not just someone that was done inappropriately. And if it was done inappropriately, we're taking the recourses that are necessary in order to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And we're just, always constantly looking at it. But, one thing I will say is that, our teachers are doing a good job of documenting. And the last thing I would want them to do is to hear that we want you to stop documenting because we don't want all these numbers.
Right.
Because that's the wrong approach to
No,
take.
I appreciate that. And you said that full-time position was as of last year, that
Correct.
person
It
who
was
does
a part-time position
okay.
before last year,
Yeah.
which allowed them to be the trainer of CPI. They were actually a behavior teacher and within our emotional disabilities program. And then we made that person a full-time, which will now help us audit the restraints.
Well, I'd love to follow up on that too. Just obviously not specific student data, but to see when you have a report of that nature, that'd be great to see. And I appreciate the care with which you're looking into this. Obviously, it's a serious thing. Anytime even a short period of time when you
Correct.
seclude a student, that can have a tremendous impact. So we want to make sure that which it sounds like we're doing, taking
Right.
it very seriously, documenting it, and
When I
looking
read
for
the
trends.
article, I think that one of the parents or someone made an illusion that it's taking the kid and putting their hand behind their back and doing all the and it's not. That's what I want people to understand is that it's done with care and it's done with this training. It's not taking a student and just slamming them on the ground, which I think sometimes parents think that it is.
Right.
And that's why I would welcome all three of you to come to the training to actually see what we're doing to help
Definitely.
make sure that our teachers are doing the right thing.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick up on that. That was actually one of my questions, and I know that leads into our next page because we were talking about student performance and with the physical, social, and psychological well-being. There have been questions that have been asked about whether or not seclusion and restraint are the best things. There's been lots of talk about that, but I wanted to just stress, and I'll share with you guys. Some of you know this, some of you don't, that my mother was a special education teacher for over 35 years, taught at Model Secondary School for the Deaf and then Gallaudet University. But she's had instances where, again, with deafness, there's often a co-occurring disorder. And so there were times where they've had to clear classrooms before. And again, this is not about penalizing the student. I want to be very clear that when you do this, this is about the safety of the student and the safety of the other students that are in the classroom. My daughter, who was at Matsunaga, had a classroom cleared for a student who had had an outburst and grabbed scissors and was swinging them around. Again, you clear a classroom and you put a child in seclusion in those kinds of instances to make sure that you can bring them down from that heightened state. This isn't about penalty. This isn't about some sort of disciplinary action. That's not what it's for. This is designed for a safety mechanism. And so, and so I will definitely, and I'm happy my staff's here, because I definitely want to do the crisis prevention training to go through that. I think that's incredibly important. But I know, and I just want folks, for the millions watching at home, to understand that that's what this is about. This isn't about some sort of punishment for them acting out. That's not what this is, and so making sure that they understand. And so, sure, it's a number of occurrences that happen, but it's a statement about the fact that we have a large number of students who unfortunately are sometimes challenged with some kinds of emotional, physical outbursts, and we take appropriate action to ensure the safety of them and the safety of the other students in the classroom. The last thing that we want is for us to have an incident where another child stabbed another child with a pair of scissors, because I promise you those parents are going to be like, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you take that child out of the classroom and remove them from being potentially harmful to my child, right? So it cuts both ways in that instance. I shouldn't have said that, but it goes both ways in terms of making sure that folks understand, what this is truly about. And so I just wanted to put that out there. I do think, again, it would be very helpful to have the information in terms of, and for me, it's more about like which particular schools, to make sure if there isn't a heightened level at one versus another, if the numbers are pretty much consistent amongst all of them, it says a lot, versus some where maybe they're utilizing this practice a little bit too much, or it could be indicative that they have a student there who's not in the right place as well and needs some specialized, which is why I wanted to pick up on what you said at the end, Because what you said at the beginning is what we've promised. We've promised every child a free education that gives them the ability to do whatever it is that they want to do. Private placement does not have that same charge nor responsibility. They have a choice. If they see that a child has 100 restraints or 100, seclusion incidents, they may choose not to take that child. And so what does that mean? They stay with Montgomery County Public Schools, and we continue to have those that go up and they continue to register but it also says something about what else can we do, right? And so it really speaks to something that I wanted to talk about at the end. But when we talk about our schools for more intensive needs, a la Longview, etc., is there a need for more? Just as we created the Phoenix School dealing with kids that are experiencing drug addiction and substance abuse, is there a need for us to expand beyond the current cohort when it comes to some of our more emotionally challenged? And so the interesting thing is that same child that had that outburst in my class then went on to Ewing and was transferred from that school and is now there and is thriving and is doing well within that program. So the question is, do we need to, again, for the performance as well as the physical and social and psychological well-being, the least restrictive environments, all those kinds of things, do we need something else beyond our current cohorts of schools to be able to address some of the challenges that we continue to see within this spectrum?
So what we're doing next year with the Kerwin money, we're able to do is we're actually able to become proactive with our programs that are working with students that have emotional disabilities. So in the past, what happened was we had central office psychologists, we had central office behavior support teachers, and social workers. And they would go around and they'd work with these schools that have these programs. And then based on a grant that was we got a couple years ago at Magruder and a couple other schools, Eastern, they were actually able to have a social worker, a behavior support teacher based within their school. And what we ended up seeing was they were able to get ahead. They weren't, because, having them at central office but not enough for every school to have one, they were actually used just to put out fires mostly. And so there's a huge incident going on at this school. We're going to send these folks there. They're going to help. They're going to support the school during this time period. But when that crisis subsided, they went to another school with another crisis. And it never allowed us to get ahead of the ball game. Well, now we're able to hire social workers for every one of these programs and every one of these schools. So they'll be able to do some groups and they'll be able to get ahead and they'll be able to talk to students. Because when you're talking to a student that's in crisis, they're actually not able to understand maybe what got them there, and they're not able to de-escalate on their own. And so this will allow us to get ahead, like I said, and be more proactive with these programs. The other things that we're doing is last year we started with a couple of our programs that deal with students that are aggressive is zones of regulation, which helps them identify kind of their mood and their behaviors to try to do some de-escalation skills ahead of time. And it's trying to teach. It's a curriculum that teaches kids kind of how to de-escalate on their own using colors. And it's teaching the teachers how to do that and how to teach that within their class and how to put it within their teaching day lesson. And so we are being a little bit more proactive on students that act out and students with emotional disabilities. But I'm excited, I think everyone understood based on these programs such as Eastern that we were able to have someone there, and based on Magruder that we know when you do have the resources located within the building within that program, you are able to make a difference and get ahead. And the suspensions and everything within those two schools went down.
So, Kevin, if you could, and this is separate and aside from what we've requested here, but it's interesting because you've referred to Kerwin a number of times in terms of what you've been able to utilize that money for that has really helped to turn the tide in terms of a lot of things that you're looking to do now that you haven't been able to do before. If we could get, separate and aside from all the other information, those particulars in terms of what that is, that actually is important for us as we look to then lobby the state in the future. I'm going to a MACO meeting on Wednesday, Madam President. So I'll be pushing again for that agenda in terms of making sure that that's first and foremost on our list when it comes to some of the things. But it seems as though you've been able to make great use of that money and really utilize it for some things that are really making a difference in terms of results. And so from that, or at least the ability to achieve those getting results. And so from that perspective would be helpful for us.
I think, it just allowed us to do something other than having, we were growing so fast, and our need had to be get teachers in front of students within classrooms. And so to actually try to prioritize something other than the classroom, I think was a mistake. And so we weren't able to do that. And this allowed us to look at maybe putting some other things around those classrooms, and allowed us to do that.
So I think you've heard a lot about pre-K in the past 6 months, and we're working hard across all fronts throughout multiple agencies. I'm chairing one of the subcommittees of the Early Childhood Education Initiative on access and affordability. So I'll sort of restrict here what we're doing within MCPS. I know it's in the context of a very, very large countywide picture of a mixed delivery system and childcare and family childcare. Where does all that fit? So I think I'll limit sort of my discussion here to the MCPS piece. I don't want to speak on behalf of all the other committees. So what we're doing with some Kerwin money and just with local funding is really prioritizing access for access to inclusive pre-K services. So where there are students with disabilities who have traditionally gone to our self-contained, gotten on a bus and gone to sort of regionalized self-contained classes, as more and more students without disabilities have access to a full day, increasing access to a full day pre-K program, where we can enroll our students with disabilities there with their neighbors. That's our priority. It's limited. It's in the context of about over 2,000 students with disabilities, ages 3 to 5. So clearly not all of them are income eligible, and so therefore can't access this MCPS pre-K like income eligible students. So we have that. We also have served 3-year-olds. The pre-K that we talk about is and MCPS is 4-year-olds. So we have 3-year-olds that we have that don't fit into these models, and we have non-income eligible students above the income eligibility threshold that do not have access or don't feed into this model, into the models we're doing. But what we are doing is in the new sites. The next slide has a list of 5 new sites where there is full day pre-K in MCPS for income eligible students, and again where those students who live in those neighborhoods, Belpre, Forest Knolls, McNair, Rock Creek Forest, and Watkins Mill, where they would have traditionally been getting, up through until this year, getting on a bus and going to another school for a self-contained PEP class, sometimes largely half day. As 4-year-olds, should they be income eligible, and 4, they'll be going to these schools with their neighbors, and we've staffed a part-time special education teacher and a part-time special education paraeducator for co-teaching within that general ed pre-K class. So it's about where the class size is about 20, 15 of them will be without disabilities, general education pre-K students. 5 of them will enroll with disabilities in those areas. That involves a lot of professional development, which is what we're doing this summer. All of the staff in those programs at these schools, general and special educators, will be spending 2 days working on co-teaching best practices and co-teaching this summer with their paraeducators, who are invited to come with them. Really, what does co-teaching look like? Putting the students in the same classroom is good, but it's only the quality of the teaching that matters, so that everybody can have that access. And then we have McDonald Knowles Early Childhood Center that started this year, and will be replicating the same model at the our Up County Early Childhood Center, which is at the Emery Grove Center. So for the next 2 years, so that starts. Everybody is hired, and they'll start enrolling the students in September. And again, those teachers will also be engaged in all of this co-teaching best practices training, along with they're all receiving professional development and then follow-up job embedded coaching on social emotional, it's called CEFL, Social Emotional Foundations for Early Learning and Evidence-Based Practice on really early childhood social emotional learning, which comes along with the pre-academic needs and all that. So that is our focus around the income eligible piece.
Let me just say, and I'm definitely going to call on the council president. Let me just say kudos for thinking about this. You know, in the context of when we talk about early childhood education, we don't talk enough about that specialized early childhood education for students who have differing abilities, who have some sorts of challenges. And it really is important to start early, as I said, with early identification. And it's also important to start with early services. And making sure that you can, because the earlier you intervene, that you identify and then come up with strategies, the better the outcome always is for that individual. And so it really is incredibly important. I just want to also state that in terms of the site selections that you chose, it couldn't be better. I know Belpre well. I grew up there, and that was my school. That was my home elementary school that I went to. So I know that area like the back of my hand, as I know the council president does as well. And then, of course, having something in the Up County around the Watkins Mill area is incredibly important as well. And I see that you just have a mix all around McNair. You've got a mix all around the county that really does approach this from a regional standpoint. That's really important and says a lot that you thought a lot about that in the process. It's really, really good. So I'll stop there. Council President Navarro.
Thank you. So as we're trying to obviously roll out this early care and education, initiative, a lot of it, I think it's going to be based on what are we learning, right? So are we evaluating some of these efforts so that, for example, as we were looking at the reading by, third grade, I think it was, will you be able to track these students to see whether this kind of intervention was actually having a positive impact, because then that can inform us in the future whether we want to add resources to amplify and, expand these type of approach. Always looking at how do we, best position our students in the early years so that we don't then have to deal with all this remediation and all these other issues later on. Would that be part of it?
Yeah, what we're not sharing, but I can share, we have data on, we can look at it right now and see the data, because we have lots of control subjects in the students who don't live in these areas, don't live down by McDonald Knowles, and don't have access, haven't this year had access to this, and we can track their data. So we can do a couple things. We can track the data of the students, and we have it in our, online, it's easy to access, track the data on the evidence of learning measures for pre-K students, for 4-year-olds. How about the students who've been at Lelick and McDonald Knowles receiving services in a full day gen ed class? We can compare them to their peers who live not in the neighborhoods here, who, by virtue of where they live, haven't gone to McDonald Knowles or Lelick. So we can do that. We can compare this, and that data is very strong. We can compare the data for students with disabilities in these programs. Like, I'll take McDonald Knowles, for example. We can compare the data for the fall and spring, beginning and end of the year 4-year-old data for students as they come into McDonald Knowles and as they leave McDonald Knowles and get ready to go to kindergarten. What we're finding is that the students with disabilities are actually narrowing the gap. They make more progress. They narrow the gap to a greater degree than their general education peers. So that's a whole different data point. We're comparing special education students here to special education students in self-contained classes, and then we're comparing special ed students to general ed students in the same classes, and that data bears out.
That's really cool. That's really great.
The numbers are small. I mean, the numbers are small.
Well, but again, I think it informs us when we're making our budgetary decisions, right? Where should we be focusing those dollars? I mean, if we want to expand this because we understand that the impact has been, already proven to have these results, it gives us that roadmap, is what I'm trying to say. That's really important.
And I do, on our committee and in lots of committees, we don't want to forget those 3-year-olds, because there is a gap.
Yeah.
Students are in infants and toddlers program. Many of our students in pre-K have been in infants and toddlers program, and then they come to us at age 3. And also there's, the students who are not income eligible. So there are large pockets of this county where where the students don't live here and they're not income eligible, and we don't have universal pre-K and MCPS. So we do a couple things. I don't want to. One is that we do have about 115 students who are parentally placed in their childcare and whatever childcare their parents choose, or preschool their parents choose to have them in, and we send a teacher there. So we have about 8.5 teachers, speech, and then some speech therapists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists who go to them. So these are students with more mild delays, don't need to be removed from the childcare where they are from 9 to 12 or 7 to 6, and we'll send a special education teacher there. And then we also, longstanding, so it's not one of our initiatives, but longstanding where there is, we've prioritized co-locating a self-contained special education class, a PEP class, in a building that has general education pre-K. So apart from this, and then at a 4-year-old level, we're essentially co-teaching. But again, there are large pockets of this county that don't have any MCPS pre-K nearby. So again,
Awesome.
different gap.
The other thing I want to add is that psychologically, it's a huge difference for kindergarten teachers to get a student who's coming from a self-contained environment as opposed to someone who's already been included. And why that is, I don't know, but I'm just saying that, we see that, for the kindergarten teachers that are getting kids that are already included in pre-K, they think that they're more kindergarten ready than someone who's coming from their self-contained program. So I'm just saying psychologically it gets them ready, the teacher more prepared to get a student in their comprehensive kindergarten class when they're coming from already a program where they were included.
Great, thank you.
All right. Mr. Howard, have we missed anything, or have we touched on pretty much everything?
I think we've touched on everything that was in the presentation and in the packet, and I have the list of follow-up issues and requests, and I'll get working on those with MCPS.
Excellent. I'll turn to my colleagues. Any last questions?
Thank you for coming.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for a very robust conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned.